Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes is official for UFC 325, but it should not be happening. It should not happen for many reasons, but before I get into those, let me just make one thing clear. The fact that this is bad matchmaking does not mean that Lopes cannot win. That is not what me or other people are saying. The question is, should he have gotten this title shot again? Lopes has a very good chance to win. I would say probably a better one than he did in the first fight. During their first fight, I know that whenever Volk was getting into these exchanges in the pocket, that every Volk fan was thinking that he's about to get slept. I know I was. So this should be a good fight. There's no denying that. But how does Lopes deserve a shot over Evloev and Murphy? We just saw Lopes lose to Volk. What's the goal? Just keep fighting Volk until he knocks him out? Which will happen at some point. Also, just for Volk's legacy, getting a win over Murphy or Evloev would look great for the resume. But my thinking here is that the UFC does want Lopes to win this title. He has a big fan base behind him, and him being the one to take that title off Volk would be something that they prefer rather than Evloev or Murphy taking it off of him. Or, even worst case, Volk beats those guys and just retires, in which case Lopes would be fighting for a vacant belt, which just doesn't earn you the same star power as knocking out Volk. I think there are some slight similarities between this and the Paddy situation. Not fully, because Lopes has better wins and he's beaten some of the top dogs in his division and he did earn his first title shot. But rather the fact that the UFC wants them to be superstars in their divisions. They would rather Paddy be the next guy over Arman, and they would prefer Lopes to be that guy rather than Evloev or Murphy. I think people believe this even more so because of the new Paramount deal. I mean, just remember, Paddy versus Gaethje and Volk versus Lopes are happening on back-to-back weeks. 324 and 325 are happening one after the other. So they think both of these are going to be fun fights and they want to put on a show for the first few numbered events of the Paramount deal. But for Volk, it just feels like a lose-lose. Just remember, his last fight was against Diego Lopes. That's who he just beat and now he's fighting him again. The reason it's a lose-lose is because if Volk wins, it doesn't really add much to his legacy because like I said, he just beat Lopes and people are calling this an undeserved title shot for Lopes, which they may not realize it now, but it takes a bit of the credit away from Volk if he wins. And of course, if he loses, well, it's probably going to be by knockout, and nobody wants to see Volk go out like that. He already took on this dangerous matchup of Diego Lopes, and he beat him over the course of 5 rounds. Why is his next title defense against the same guy? I think this sets a bad example of what to expect from future matchups. You just saw this happen, so are you really going to be surprised if Usman is next for Islam Makhachev? I was going back and forth on whether I think he would actually get the next title shot, but after seeing these matchups, I'm sure he gets it. This would be like, the best example I can think of is that Dricus beats somebody like Brendan Allen and he fights Hamzat again. That's genuinely the best example I can think of. Hamzat's next title defense being the guy he just beat. Dana White can no longer say the best fight the best, and there's no shenanigans like boxing going on, because people will throw these matchups in his face and ask why certain guys get favoritism over other guys. The fight is still exciting, and I can't wait to see 2 numbered events back to back, but the UFC does lose credibility when they make matchups like this, and it in turn affects the fighters' legacies as well.